Live streaming is on.
And we're live for the third edition of the Common Stack Research Roundup. And let's just dive in, huh? So a lot of happening on cadCAD. Do you want to take it away, Jeff?
Yeah, totally. So we actually just came out of two back-to-back cadCAD calls. The first cadCAD community call, which I facilitated. Matt Barlin gave some really cool tips and tricks and best practices on cadCAD, followed up by Griff's Intro to cadCAD course for DAO Hack Month. So both of those were recorded, and we'll drop the links down below so you can check out all the great information about getting cadCAD set up and using this important simulation and modeling tool to understand the complex interactions of your crypto economic system before you deploy to code.
And what's with the cadCAD like community and DAO? There's like a whole new setup there.
Yeah, so cadCAD was a tool developed by Block Science, and just recently they're taking their first steps as a standalone open source community. So this is basically like a data science tool like NumPy or SciPy or scikit-learn. Like there's a whole data science stack built on Python, and cadCAD is now going to be one of those communities. So NumPy, for example, is an open source community that has open source governance. They fund development of NumPy tools, and cadCAD will be the same. Sort of an open source community that has their own governance processes. Actually, I'll share my screen here. There's a pretty neat tool coming out of the University of Boulder. Nathan Schneider has put together community rules. So this is basically a way that organizations can be very clear and concise about their governance. So cadCAD is a three-tiered community. So they're kind of the core maintainers who are the the original creators of the software, making sure that there are certain, like code standards so that the software doesn't fall apart when it gets random contributions. There are also contributors, and there's the community. There are also a couple of work groups. There's a core tech work group for people working on the core cadCAD engine. There's sort of the admin infrastructure group who are managing, all the assets, the website, the Discord, the forum, everything like that. And there's an education and outreach work group as well. So yeah, for anyone interested, we'll include a link to the cadCAD Discord below as well. And we invite anyone to join in. You can join any of these working groups. There will be kind of emergent coordination around how to move forward this software and how to use it in the coming months. And basically, this isn't trying to impose some top-down governance process, but just capture what is happening already emergently in this community and defining it clearly so that people can use these governance structures and make cadCAD into a useful community tool.
Yeah, understanding cultural norms, right? When you get in, I mean, how often? I mean. A lot of the meta cartel DAOs, you go in and you don't understand how the voting actually happens, right? It's like, no, you can't just propose a vote. If you propose a vote, people are just going to vote no on it because first you have to post it in the Discord and have a discussion about it. And then when there's agreement on the Discord, you actually use Moloch DAO and you propose something. And then it's just like a couple people vote yes, and then it's done. No one really votes. But how do you know that? It's not actually written down anywhere.
Right.
Community rules look amazing for this.
Yeah, totally. It's kind of like the cultural process. It's like an info at a glance. It's not a terms and conditions document with all the legalese that nobody reads. It's just this is how the community works. So there's rough consensus. There's advice process. There's autonomy in working groups, but there's also cohesion in the commits that are pushed by the maintainers. So yeah, there's kind of a really cool emergent governance process coming around this open source community. So excited to see where that goes.
You got to mention FastDAO though, because FastDAO is super cool.
Yeah, fast. What does fast stand for again?
I don't remember, but it stands for fast because it's very fast.
Yeah. So this is essentially, I guess there's an Aragon DAO. The token is called FAST. There was some clever acronym. I wonder where that is posted for me to find it. But this is the way that decisions are made with tokens and using the Aragon infrastructure. But yeah, I think there's going to be some kind of experimentation with various tools to determine what works best with the community as it's forming up.
It was like financial administrative system token or something like that. But basically, it's like anyone with a fast token can spend money out of the DAO. It's super cool. It's just a one of n multisig, and whoever is trusted to be in that DAO can just be able to send the money to a bounty, basically, right?
Yeah.
I don't know. I think it's the best. It's one of the best DAOs I've ever heard of, because it just does what needs to be done. The money sits there. There's financial transparency, and you don't have to get all hung up on like how decisions are made. Decisions just get made.
Yeah, I remember back a number of months ago we were joking. I think Z mentioned, cadCAD should have DAO, which is like a source cred instance, that's tracking all of the contributions on Discord, on Discourse, on GitHub, and then is allocating some amount of funds per month to contributors in the cadCAD space. So that's not here yet, but yeah, really exciting stuff to come. I think we can do some experimentation and see what works to, of course, value the contributions to this community, which is really important in the open source space.
Yeah, well, there's endless cadCAD calls, right? So like there was the cadCAD community call that was recorded and will get up on YouTube soon. And I assume we'll link to it in this video eventually.
For sure.
Sorry if we don't. And then I did an intro call that is already on YouTube, and so that will for sure get linked in this video. And then and Z is doing a conviction voting cadCAD model workshop on the 5th. That looks cool. Where is that? The Fork the World hackathon?
Yep, it's going to be in the DAO Hack Month Discord as well. We can include the link below. And that will be, a bit more rigorous workshop. So come get your hands dirty in some code. We'll have a conviction voting notebook, and some stuff will be removed, and you can go in and actually add the code back. We'll probably use the Collab. I think that's a lot easier place to work with in a tutorial. Google Collab is kind of a way that you can work on a cadCAD model just in your browser. You don't have to download and install Python and everything else. But I mean, if you're going to use cadCAD, it's not that bad. I just went through it last week, and I'm pretty noob, so it's not that bad of a process.
Yeah. Did you guys record that onboarding, or?
I took notes and I posted them in the cadCAD forum, actually.
Oh, nice.
So along with Shebnem made a post already earlier or later last year about how to install, and I just added my notes there. They're not complete by any means, because I think every time, if you're doing Windows or Mac or Linux or whatnot, you're gonna have different situations arise, but it was pretty straightforward. Most of it is just understanding the Git flow and Git commands. So I put some basic ones in there, and we can drop a link below to that forum post as well. And speaking of cadCAD, I think cadCAD is still a data science tool. But at the end of the day, when you open up a cadCAD notebook, you're seeing a lot of code, you're seeing a lot of plots. So I think there's still some opportunity to bring this a bit closer to the end user. So I wanted to share my screen here again and walk through the Common Simulator. And maybe, Griff, you can tell us a bit about what's happening with the Common Simulator and cadCAD, and how we can make these important data science tools more easier to grok for the end user.
Dude, I'll tell you what's happening. Marco's taking over. Okay, Marco is just a superstar designer in the space. He's tokenizing his hours, so buy Mark while it's cheap, because this man works magic. Okay, he put together this Figma. You can just start clicking through. It's basically the first full design that we have that we've all agreed to, where So the story is that we want to create a commons around radical exchange, and there's kind of a backdrop for this story of it's set in a apocalyptic future where commons have public goods have basically been lost to society. We forgot about all of the how to make commons, and so pockets of humanity have survived. And there's a bunch of nerds that actually were just trying to hack into the old airwaves and find stories of quantum leap. this was they wanted to watch Quantum Leap, because this whole thing is kind of set in a Quantum Leap style storyline. And they actually accidentally discovered time travel. And the thing is, it's not like time travel in Terminator. It's more like time travel in Quantum Leap, where you can send a person's consciousness into another person's body. And the time machine is cadCAD. cadCAD is the time machine. And I love this analogy because cadCAD actually acts like a time machine. It allows you to predict the future, especially when you feed it data from the past. And so now cadCAD is the time machine that is holographically visible to the person who travels into the future. Their consciousness ends up being downloaded into some random person. And they don't know who it's going to be. They're kind of just leaping, just like in Quantum Leap, person to person, to make the world a better place by spreading awareness of the creation of commons for society. And so the character, the player, ends up being kind of strategically placed to make to create pockets of society that know how to support public goods. And this is the way that we're going to introduce the power of cadCAD to people. So we're going to this is kind of the intro for the vibe of the game. And then after this, the person is going to have to actually pick parameters in conviction voting, mostly. And then that will determine if then we'll run cadCAD in the back end and actually pop out some graphs, and they'll have to decide if their commons was a success or not by looking at the graphs. And if they say it's a success and they're wrong, then they get a big losing screen, and it's like, nope, sorry, guess what? You just ended up back at the beginning again. You have to redo it, or well, actually they'll get a high scores list, and they can collaborate with someone else who got a high score, and they can try to improve their score and see the settings that they used, tweak those settings if they want, and then if they improve the high score, then their name will go along with the other person's name on the high score. So it's a really fun, like, collaborative game that we're putting together, and Marco's really just taking it anew. Danny wrote a really fantastic outline of the story, and now Marco's running with it and playing with it. And then Andrew rewrote all of Zargum's cadCAD code to be object-oriented, so that people, the real trick of this game is that it's super easy to cheat. You can just go and run cadCAD and figure out an optimal solution and then put it in. And that's the real game. The real game is the next level. Go in there and cheat. Go run the cadCAD instance and just add a couple policies to optimize or to analyze the data and run several simulations so that you can actually see what the optimal solutions are. So I'm just excited to see who cheats.
Yeah, and I think this is a great way to bring cadCAD, put it in people's hands tangibly, without overwhelming them with the Python code and everything else that for the beginner data scientist or system modeler, it can be a bit much. So this is kind of like wrapping it in a story and a narrative, and giving people it's kind of like a flight simulator, how you can use cadCAD without being a data scientist. Here are your parameters, and you can play with them in the kind of gamified simulator interface and run it and understand the outcome, having put it through a rigorous tool like cadCAD, but without having to go into the raw code and actually making those changes. But we hope to continue to funnel people in that direction once they understand the power of simulating and modeling these systems. We think at the Common Stack, this is such a really important tool for designing safe and responsible crypto economic systems in the future.
Yeah, exactly. And it's based off of conviction voting is kind of the highlight for the Common Simulator. So which is funny because now I think Aragon's simulating going deep into the conviction voting simulation. I kind of wish that we had that we weren't so far into our rewriting the simulation for conviction voting for in the simulator, because this thing is looking epic.
Yeah. So so there's a project going on right now between Aragon, OneHive, Block Science, and the Common Stack to model conviction voting for an Aragon DAO for like the OneHive use case. So this is some of the work that's been done. This repo will be open sourced in just a couple of weeks, but I'll show you some of the plots that we've been putting together, explaining the participants in conviction voting are exerting some support through their token holdings for various proposals. And again, as with anything in cadCAD, this has to be rigorously defined with math so that we have these invariants that can be defined so that these systems hold. We're defining the token physics of these systems on which we can do rigorous token engineering. So it's like engineering any system. You need strong invariants and defining these state update systems through various parameters, alpha and the summation of all of the conviction. We really get rigorous fundamentals to build our system off of.
I want to just go a little bit deeper on that, because I feel like that's the key where like we lose a lot of people when we talk about simulations, because they're like, but you can't simulate governance, you can't simulate economies. No, you're right, you can't simulate the American governance system, and you can't simulate the US dollar economy, but you can create economies with invariance and enough rules and a limited configuration space that can be simulated and effectively. And same with governance systems. If you create enough rules that then can no longer be broken, and you create those rules in a blockchain system that can enforce those rules, then you can start simulating some of this stuff and that you wouldn't believe is possible.
Right. You're restricting the action set of the agents to a certain number of behaviors, such as, in Bitcoin, it's buy and sell. In Aragon, it might be buy and sell and vote. In another system, it might be buy and sell and vote and, earn, or, there's a certain number of behaviors that you can then, you can't say what people will do, but you can say what will happen when they do. And here's a set of actions. And then when you do your parameter sweeps and your Monte Carlo analyses, which is where cadCAD really shines above all other tools out there on the market, both because it's open source, so the models are all available, which is so important, because a lot of this modeling, maybe we don't understand it enough, but this exists in airlines. They have models. Uber has models. Airbnb has models. When they have surge pricing, like these are all economic models they use in their system, but they're proprietary. And we, as the end user, don't know how they're programmed. Even the Facebook algorithm is modeled. But we don't have a say or any insight into how these companies or nation states are modeling and expecting our behavior. So with cadCAD, we are democratizing access to these complex models so that we can all understand the assumptions that go into them, because no matter how much AI or machine learning you put into these, you're always encoding some assumptions. And those can be dangerous assumptions depending on, do we want Trump, behind the models that we're all using? We should be able to see the assumptions that are made to make sure that they match our assumptions, or, you can fork the model and put in your own assumptions and see how it plays out. So cadCAD as an open source modeling tool is really powerful for that.
I mean, that's the magic. If all of Trump's models were open source, at least it wouldn't matter that it's Trump, because we could look at them and we could be like, yeah, they're safe, or no, look, here's where he was douchey.
yeah.
Sorry.
Another way cadCAD really stands above and beyond most other tools is you can, it's multi-scale, so you can do multiple kinds of analysis all in the same framework, compared with a lot of other tools that are used, Stella or MATLAB, or they're good for certain types of analysis, but they're not kind of whole range. So with cadCAD, we can do parameter sweeps, we can do Monte Carlo analyses, we can do analysis at the agent level, we can do analysis at the system level, or any zoom in between. You can do subpopulation modeling. So it really is a rigorous tool compared to a lot of what is currently on the market. So this is some of the other diagrams that are coming together. This is, again, talking about the trigger function. A lot of this is similar in some ways to what the Common Stack has been working on, just with a few different variables, because we're talking about the OneHive and the Aragon system instead. But a lot of this stuff will be open sourced after this contract is over, and end up in the Common Stack library as well. So we're really excited for a really well documented notebook that has all of the assumptions clearly laid out, the parameters, and some of the plots from early analysis as well. So really exciting stuff going on in the conviction voting world.
Yeah, I can't wait. It's going to make doing the token engineering commons with conviction voting so much easier and so much more fun, because people can actually, do the cadCAD work. It's a token engineering commons. You don't think they want to do some token engineering, So yeah. We will tweak the hell out of that thing. It's going to be fun.
Speaking of, that's the token engineering vision call just kicked off this week as well. Wow, what a week for all these great community calls. You want to tell us a bit about that?
Yeah, for sure. So the first, maybe I'll start with the roadmap, because oh yeah, that's right. I have to share a screen. Let's see. Oh no, not that one. I think I know how to use Jitsi. Oh gosh. Okay. So let's see here. So here's our notes where we do this call. Yeah. And here's the roadmap. So we're doing actually the cultural build is kind of the focus for the token engineering commons from the Common Stack angle. We really want to nail make sure that we understand what the hell we're talking about when we tell people that, hey, you need a cultural build. Well, we need to do it. And with the token engineering commons, we're going to document it and make sure that anyone who wants to do a commons after us can take what we did and make it better. So we created a roadmap. It's kind of something that we just proposed to the token engineering commons. It's going to take about 5 to 6 months. And right now we're at the vision. We just did this awesome vision call, which I'll show you guys how that went. But we have the plan is to do the vision, mission, and values in the next 2 weeks, and really nail down why we're doing this and how we want to get it done, right? And then we figure out how do we work together, and we solidify this roadmap and figure out some roles and see if people need to get paid and do all the bureaucracy to make sure that everyone is satisfied with how we're going forward. And then we actually do the work, right? Set up working groups on all the various topics, the legal side, the financial side, the cultural side, just solve all the problems that we can think of in advance and get our solutions for them written down. And while that's happening, we'll get started on the tech. Once we have the technical solutions ready, we'll start we'll actually start talking to probably OneHive to actually build this thing. And it shouldn't be hard. We're going to try to make sure that we're not asking OneHive to do anything custom. Just take what's already there and run with it, and then deploy the commons. So that's sort of the plan. And we did the vision call. So I have all these links in advance. Look at that. And it was really fun. And we started playing with all the data that we gathered. So it's been moving around. But the first step was just kind of a hook where I asked everyone to make a proposal. And I say but really Livia was huge for this call. She set up the board. Her and Lorelei kind of planned it out. And then I just came in and was the joker who facilitated. But Livia and Lorelei helped put this together. I gave some input. So first, people came up with proposals that we would want the token engineering commons to do. I think the winning proposal was a cadCAD package manager, because everyone loves cadCAD. This is like a cadCAD shill fest. But then I made the point that, okay, that's great, but guess what? We don't have any money to do this. So we need to actually create a commons so we can actually find the money to do these awesome proposals. And then everyone kind of went through and answered this question. I see the world having blank because the Token Engineering Commons did this, right? And we had some really good answers here. And I think the winning one was about safer digital and financial infrastructure. So, and this ended up being the winning choice. So I see the world having a safer digital financial infrastructure because the Token Engineering Commons funded research, design, methodology, tools, and best practices. And while we were hacking through that and having great conversations, we took some time to figure out what some of the values are. And also, Livia took awesome notes here and organized a lot of the gems that we picked up from the call. So it was really fun. And I think Miro is just probably the best tool for brainstorming around these things. We got to vote on all of this stuff. And I'm really excited because now the next step is we created a Typeform to gather the collective learnings. And I'll give a link to this Typeform below. And then once we get everybody's individual individual learnings together, we'll collect them, and as a small group of anyone who wants to take part in iterating through the vision, we're going to actually express a vision and then get feedback on it, and then move forward to mission and values this week. So by next week, we should be into figuring out how we work together, just like that.
Awesome. And maybe it would be good to give a bit of a comparison of like the Token Engineering Commons. How does that relate to the token engineering community and things like the Token Engineering Academy? What part do each of these kind of different initiatives play?
In the Commons Stack, we kind of have a polycentric governance approach. There isn't one giant government that has a monopoly on every public goods vertical. That's not how we like to do things in the Commons Stack space, and I don't think in the token engineering space either. It's more of a work group approach. So this is just what I would say is the funding work group. That's kind of what the Token Engineering Commons is, and specifically funding things that can't find their own funding. We'll see exactly. I feel bad saying too much on that route because it's really up to the token engineering community, of which I'm a part of, but to determine whether or not we want to go the full-on Commons Stack ideal, which is that this Token Engineering Commons funds public goods. It funds shared resources for the token engineering space. That's things like standards, maybe some educational things, some onboarding practices, community management stuff, so like the care work that is often forgotten in business models that helps make everybody succeed with their own individual business models within token engineering. And so this is that's sort of the dream of the Token Engineering Commons, but it's up to the token engineering community to buy into that dream. And because in the end, the Commons Stack is trying to be servant leaders in creating these commons. So maybe this commons might be more into funding private companies into doing closed source research, for instance. Maybe that is in scope. We're going to find out in this Typeform. I asked this very explicitly in the Typeform, so I'm excited to see what people think. And I mean, that was just one thing. The Token Engineering Commons is a small, honestly, the smaller thing that happened this week in the token engineering community, because the Academy was amazing, man. The Academy, I think I heard personally from everyone that I talked to who went there, who went to it, it was like mind-blowing. So, and in fact, on Twitter, I can share screen again. I have this up. On Twitter, I think they made some kind of form, and it says that, would you recommend this course to other aspiring token engineers? Out of 12 responses, no one said no, no one said neutral, no one said perhaps. Everyone said yes, definitely. So it was It was a good class. You went to the first one, right?
I went to the intro course. It was great. Yeah. Angela and Shebnem presenting. Yeah, that was awesome.
Yeah. So economic value flows, stock and flow diagrams, and understanding how all this stuff works within a system, and especially from a token engineering perspective. Actually, that tweet, we'll link the tweet in the video notes as well, because it gave a nice overview of the course.
Yep, totally. So I don't know how much. I think we're coming up on half an hour for this recording already. Do we have anything else that we really want to catch in this research roundup, Griff, or do you think we should save some of these topics for next week?
What the heck? Let's just give the overview and then pass the links, huh? Like
Sure.
the big thing, CCA. There's okay. We'll share how to share calendar links next week. But yeah,
we figured out how to hack Google calendars.
Yeah, you'll have to view next week. It's the teaser. No, but Brett Scott is starting some kind of private research call in the CCA, which is really cool. And then we had really good, one of the best CCA calls so far, with Michael Linton and Leander Bindewald, two superstars in the space, and they hashed it out. I will put a link to that down below. It's definitely worth a watch if you're interested in getting, like, I don't know, 70 years of community currency research in an hour. And then for Giveth 1 is ready to onboard people. So like we have nailed everything at this point, and we're just doing UX tweaks, and we're ready to if you're paying high gas fees and you want to, but you still are committed to organizing transparently on a blockchain, Giveth is by far the best solution. You have escrows, you have complete financial transparency. Every action that happens on Giveth, you can just push a button and get a CSV of your financial history within that campaign, and you can organize it however you want. It definitely has too much information, but that means you can customize it, and you can see how the balance of your campaign, of your DAO, changes over time at every time step, every time there's an action. So it's super cool, and it's ready. It's ready for everyone. I think
this is a really, really important part of like the cyber physical commons, because when we look at DAOs as funding clubs like Moloch or Metacartel, today people apply for funds to complete a proposal, and then they just get the funds. Now, I mean, this works in small communities, but if we try to scale this, obviously people could just take the funds and run without doing anything with them, like a lot of the ICOs in 2017. So what the Giveth proposal engine, as it fits into the cyber physical commons, it's an escrow. So your proposal is passed, the funds go into escrow and are released on milestone completions as verified by verifiers and so on and so forth. So it's a really important tool for accountability and transparency, and using blockchain tech to fund proposals.
And interoperability. Because
yes,
right now, I mean, because those are the two main pieces, right? Or three, I guess: transparency, accountability, and interoperability. So instead of having to go from grant proposal to grant proposal, asking for a bunch of money from a bunch of different people, and then those people not knowing that you're asking for this money for the same project for all of them, and also not knowing that they could all group together to just put in a little bit of money, and then you would have the funding for your project. This lack of transparency and gets in the way. And if we just had one place where you went and made a proposal and said, hey, I'm trying to do this, and the whole system was interoperable, so that, oh, well, this conviction voting DAO is voting on it, and individual people could just donate to it, and the Ethereum Foundation could send money to it, and all these different groups could actually, the person could just fill out one form on Giveth and then pass it to somebody, pass the same thing to everybody. I mean, what's really cool is when you combine it with conviction voting, it becomes a matching system, right? Where, oh, this conviction voting DAO has enough voting power to send 800 DAI to this proposal, but it's asking for 1,000 DAI. Well, then someone can just send 200 DAI to that proposal, and then the conviction voting DAO can be aware that happened, and now it's only asking for 800 DAI, and it can just also be pulled in to fund it. And so there's so much extra benefit from the interoperability of the system.
Right. We were just chatting before we started recording how much you love my old sketches. This was one I drew to demonstrate the open proposal layer of Giveth, so that you have multiple different commons or DAOs, and they can fund proposals that are submitted by different DAOs and commons. So you can have, as Griff mentioned, kind of like an infinite Gitcoin grant round. It doesn't have to be limited by, the Ethereum Foundation's ability to give funds. You could have anyone matching anywhere because you have this now open proposal layer that you don't have to put in a proposal to Moloch and Metacartel and Aragon and the European Commission, and you don't have to replicate that work. You can put in one proposal, and it can be funded by multiple sources, whether crypto or real world. So really, really exciting stuff to come there.
Yeah. Well, yeah. Thanks for tracking the time. I guess we're out of time. And thanks for putting all the research work again, Jeff. I guess we'll do this again in 2 weeks.
Totally. Looking forward to it.
Cool.
See y'all then.
See ya.